Yeah, I've been putting that off for way too long. It's fine, look at it. It's still going strong. It's a peace lily, it's my only plant, and I'm determined to not kill it. Anyway, I've been putting that off for way too long. Now that's done with my hobby tools, let's do something hobby, I guess. Okay, let's do some digital kit bashing. So in this first example, I've got one of my Hooble Goobles riding a piggy. This is normally two separate STL files. I have put them together and used a Boolean modifier to combine them into one single STL. Do not join the models together because you're not actually joining them together, and that may cause you problems when you come to print it. So use a Boolean, then when you export it, make sure you apply the modifier. And in the slicer, now you've got a single model ready to be supported and printed. Easy. Okay, the second example is my old dragon dude right here. I've decided to give him this lovely low poly pipe. Again, same thing. This is the pre-supported file. I add a Boolean modifier and combine the pipe with the original model. Then export it, make sure you're applying the Boolean, and in our slicer you can see the pipe there attached to the model. You just need to put in the extra supports and you're good to go. In this next example I have one of my silly little Hooble Goobles again, this time with a comically low poly hat. So now, same deal again, I'm going to export this using the Boolean modifier. In the slicer I've already used auto supports on the original model. Now, if I update this file, you will see that the supports now no longer align. The reason for this is there's an invisible box along the x-axis, the y-axis and the z-axis. And essentially, by increasing the size of that box, you are changing the origin point, and so it shifts its position. However, if we were to get rid of that hat and instead add some glasses, say, which actually sit within this bounding box, and if we export that instead, it won't change position. Now if I update the file, it should return back to its original position and all the supports are back where they need to be. If you're doing this, or if you're generally doing some digital sculpting and you're about to clean up your model, some things you have to be aware of when you're doing things like this. Here is my model Seng, which is currently in lots of little pieces, so I need to join all this together. So I'm going to use the Boolean. I'm not going to use the join option, which, just like Blender, doesn't actually combine the files together. So here is the combined file. It might look okay right now, but up here you'll see an option that says separate. Now if I was to press this, you can see now it's separated it into 9 different files. What are all these? Let's solo these. So the first one is what looks like the main model. The other one is this little bit here. There's a bit there, there's a bit over there, and so on. These are all random little voids or parts which haven't actually been connected to the main piece. And if you try and print this, you are going to get resin in these little pockets, which eventually might cause you an issue. So this is obviously not a proper tutorial. I've not taught you how to use Blender or Nomad Sculpt, but I can do some more in-depth tutorials if people would like that. However, if you import into your slicer and you see the model appear as red, and then there's an option to repair it, Essentially, when you repair the model, it is trying to do things like that. Get rid of the voids, close any holes, and usually it succeeds in doing it. However, I think it's best practice to try and do it yourself. If you're on Windows, you can use 3D Builder, import your model, and usually, even if you think you've already fixed it, it will come up with this model is invalidly defined. Now, this also means the position might be a bit off. If you click this button down here, it will repair the model. This might take a while depending on how many polygons it is. So now the model's finished repairing, you can save this, and when you import it into your slicer, it should appear as already repaired. Before you start doing any of the kit bashing stage, I think it's good practice to put it through 3D Builder, because this will change the origin point as well. If you were to import this into Blender before you did this, then import it again after, you'd see the position change. Well, back into the slicer, if you remember the position of this model constantly changing when we added the hat, which was outside of the original bounding box, if I was to edit this in 3D Builder, it would change the origin point of the bounding box. So this would just be over here now or something, and it would mess up any of the supports you'd been very carefully and slowly been making. So obviously these are auto-generated, so it doesn't matter, but if you've been manually doing it and taking loads of time, and then you then do say an edit, you notice something on the hand and go, oh, I wish I'd redone that bit or whatever, you go change it, bring it back in. If during that process you'd put it through 3D Builder, now it would be totally in a different position. So it's just something to be aware of before you do any manual supporting. So obviously that wasn't really an in-depth tutorial. I kind of assumed that you'd use Blender a little bit and Nomad Sculpt to kind of understand what I meant. And if you didn't understand what I meant, you probably weren't going to get anything out of this anyway. I don't really want to do any long-form tutorials on digital sculpting, but if people want little hints and tips and stuff about how to do certain things, then I don't mind doing other videos on that. But there's loads of resources on YouTube and online generally for Blender specifically. It's been around for a very long time. You should download it because it's open source, which means it's free, and you can get a lot out of it. It's for like filmmaking and animation and STL sculpting, and just you can do so much with it. It gets better all the time. And it's coming to iPad as well, actually, which means the sculpting tools are going to be so much better, hopefully. Nomad Sculpt, which I've already talked about before, only £20 on iPad and on Android tablets. It's really worth every penny. But yeah, I kind of assumed you'd used the software before. If you haven't at all, I suggest you check them out and start making kit bashes. In fact, if you want to sculpt but don't really know where to start, don't really know what to do a Blender tutorial. Do a basic tutorial just to learn the UI and the controls and just how it all works generally. And then get 2 of your favourite STL files and just smash them together. Just make some sort of chaos spawn monstrosity. And I know generally with licenses for STL files, they say no remixing, which is pretty standard. But, you know, for personal use, in the comfort of your own home, do what you want. You know, you want to smash my files together, whatever, do it. In fact, I demand you do it. Do it right now. I think that's actually a good gateway into the actual sculpting, because the daunting part about sculpting is the very, very beginning, when you've just got a sphere or a cube and you're like, how do I make this into not a sphere or a cube? But always start with the basic shapes anyway. Get the basic shapes in, do a very, very low poly, rough kind of sketch, and then it will become so much less daunting. I'm sure at some point I'll do more sculpting tips.